very disturbing stuff. How widespread is this problem?
You know, it's been the talk of video game professionals for the last 2 months or so. It's been a constant kind of barrage of threats and harassment directed mostly at women who either create or write about video games.
Why is it happening, Evan?
You know, I think this is essentially a moment where the culture wars that hit other kind of creative media, it's hitting video games now. So on one side, you have the people who make video games and people who play video games and critique video games. And there's a kind of a philosophical disagreement about whether certain personal and cultural interpretations of video games are worth kind of nurturing.
Right. Evan, what about the audience? We mentioned this stat, and frankly, I was really surprised by that. I don't know if you agree with it, that adult female gamers now outnumber teenage boys. Is that right? Are the demographics changing? Because that's not our perception.
No, that's not the perception, and the demographics are changing. A lot of these numbers factor in the mobile space, and obviously video games there are of a different nature than the one on whole consoles that we're used to. But the perception is part of what's powering this current controversy right now. People feel like they're not being represented, or people who have modeled themselves on what essentially is a marketing term of being called a gamer. Now that they feel like the perception is shifting, and maybe they're not as important, or they're being told, they feel like they're being told they're not as important as they have once been.
That's a really interesting concept. So they feel like they came first, they created the situation, and now it's being sort of overwhelmed by everyone else, and they're being left out. How do you solve this, Evan? This is a world that you sort of inhabit. I know you and I have spoken before about violence in video games.
Yeah.
How can the community address this issue and diffuse some of what's going on? I mean, threats against someone's lives, I mean, we cannot go down this road. What do you think the solution is?
I think anybody who cares about video games should be lending messages of support and understanding to the people who are being harassed. The people who are being harassed are people who want to expand the notions of what video games are possible of, right? Video games are cultural artifacts that have the capability to deliver really powerful messages, right? And I think a lot of the people who are making the games and critiquing the games, that's all they want. I mean, I've written about video games and how I want portrayals of black people in video games to be more nuanced and fuller. I've gotten some negative response after I've written these things, but nothing like what's being seen right now.